Hello, welcome back to Book Nerd TV. Today I'm going to do a book haul. I haven't done one in a while, and I actually have hard copy books to do the book haul with. I don't think I've ordered hard copy books since the beginning of 2021, so I'm kind of excited. It's a little bit of a present to myself. So the first book is a book I've read before. It is Long Division by Kiese, Laymon. Now, if you watched for sure the first year, maybe within the first 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but the first few videos on this channel, I talked about Long Division. I feel like I tried to say what the book was about in my first sort of book review, book discussion, but I didn't have then, and I still don't quite have now, the words to really describe this book, but it is a wonderful, wondrous book. Now, a little backstory on this particular edition. The author, Mr. Laymon, managed to buy back the rights to this book and maybe a couple of other books that he had under the old publishing house. And so now he's publishing this book, and he is exercising or has a little more control over this edition and over the publication, and I am so excited. I'm so glad you have this cover, and it's really cool because how about that? Right? It's this, and this cover I think is very indicative of the book, very indicative of the book. And I believe that the author kind of added a little more to this edition of the book, so there's maybe a little more story, a little more. There's a little more to this version of the book versus the initial version of the book, and I am just excited to have it, to read it, and encourage, if you've not read this book at all, pick up the latest version, because it is the version that he has more creative control over. And we can always talk about Long Division in the comments below. Next up is The Afrominimalist Guide to Living with Less. This is a book by Platt that is, I saw this on scrolling, on my phone. I saw this cover and I saw Afrominimalist, and of course my attention perked up and I thought, I want this book. And then I saw there was an interview with the author. Okay, now I want to say it was on Politics and Prose, their virtual book events that they've had, which I must say, so let's take a pen in this really quick. I've watched Kiese Laymon, and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the author from Harvard, young black man. I can't remember his name right now, but they very recently, like within the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on when this comes out, they very recently had a Politics and Prose book event on their YouTube channel. I highly recommend that you go to Politics and Prose, the YouTube channel. The one, they've got just a billion, or maybe not actually a billion. They've got an incredible number of virtual book events since the beginning of 2020. They went virtual, and they have kept that virtual book event series going strong. And as you go further back in their catalog, you'll find the live events that they hosted at their store on a regular basis. I have loved Politics and Prose for years because I've watched them for years. They're located in Washington, D.C. I've never been there, but I want to go to there and just walk around, peruse the shelves, and just say that, hey, I've been to Politics and Prose. It is an independent bookstore located in Washington, D.C. If you enjoy books and authors, because most of the time, especially with the virtual book events, it's been authors speaking to authors. And this will come up again a little later with the last book in this haul. So just, be forewarned. All right, unsticking the pen. I watched her interview and I just knew that I had to have this book. Now, what I didn't realize it was just a hardcover. So there's no book jacket or dust jacket for this. It's just this book. And this book is it's a very pretty book cover. And it's minimalist. I mean, it just speaks to me. It just speaks to me so much. So very excited to read The Afro-Minimalist Guide to Living with Less by Platt. Next up in the haul is Shuri. And so this is books or comic books 1 through 10 of the Shuri series, and it's called Shuri Wakanda Forever. And I've got to look at the title page for the authors, of course, Nnedi Okorafor and Vita Ayala. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. The artists who did the drawings in the graphic novel are Leonardo Romero, Paul Davidson, and Rachel Stott. And this book is just so gorgeous. It's so, I don't know how well this will even translate on camera, but just the drawings are just so very, very interesting and colorful. And I am so excited. I thought I was going to get each individual comic, but that ended up not happening for various and sundry reasons, mostly my fault. And when I was aware that 1 through 10 would be compiled in a graphic novel, I said, I'm definitely going to get it. And so I finally got it. Now, I'm not quite sure why this front cover shows like a toddler Shuri, but whatever, I'm good with it. I mean, maybe that'll encourage younger Black girls to buy the book. I don't know. I'm definitely not a younger Black girl, but I'm definitely glad that I have the book. Book number 4 in the haul is The Dark Fantastic by Ebony Elizabeth Thomas. I know people have talked about this book before on YouTube, so I'm not going to go in depth really, because this is a book that I want to talk about in one of the book discussions. Not so much review, but when I have one of those book discussions that I do, I want to talk about this book. And so this book is about race and the imagination in the fiction genre. And so this book is a bit of an exposition on that trope and on people of color, but specifically Black people in fantasy in general. Haven't read it yet, but I am very excited to read it. In the cover, come on, why are we even? Last but certainly not least is Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. Now, remember I said that I was going to bring up politics and prose again later in the video? Well, this is that time. I watched Bryan Stevenson discuss the book Caste with Isabel Wilkerson maybe 2 or 3, 4 months ago on Politics and Prose YouTube channel. And it was such a wonderful interview. They have these ideas and thoughts that really provoke discussion and contemplation. Certainly that is true with Caste, Miss Wilkerson's book, my favorite book of the year so far. And so I thought, well, and I'd heard of Bryan Stevenson before because, Just Mercy. I'm excited to read this book. Mr. Stevenson in the interview, even though he was the interviewer, just came across as a very interesting and thoughtful person. And I thought, well, I now even more want to read his book. Of course, I'm not going to read it this year. Maybe 2022. Let's hope. So that's it for my mini book haul, 5 books. Very excited to have these in my hot little hands. If you subscribe to the channel, then you are a book nerd veteran, and I thank you so much for watching the channel. Really appreciate it. If this is the first video you've watched, go ahead and go to the channel and check out some of my other videos. And if you like what you see, subscribe, become a book nerd veteran. That's all I have for today. Remember to be safe, do good, be good, and I will see you next time.